Time for your favorite segment on ENCA on a Sunday morning, The Bookshelf. We are about to enter the second quarter of the year. For many, it hasn't been a great start. Today on The Bookshelf, we look at how one woman overcame her life's challenges. Thea Khama's Rough Diamond book is a raw and honest account of self-discovery, overcoming hardships and healing. She joins me now together with Bookshelf club members Khama and Mngqoba to give us a review. Thank you very much, Thea, for your time here on ENCA. Now, I already did say a little bit to the viewers why you wrote the book, but can you tell us in your own words some of the experiences that you went through, obviously not giving too much away from what you wrote in the book?
Yes, so this is a story of my life before being married and in my early years, from birth up through my early 20s. And it was a time in my life when literally I was a rough diamond. I was being formed into, hopefully now today, a more polished version of that. And so I wanted to share with people how I overcame my challenges and what that was like, and really bring people inside of who is Thea Khama, because people are always asking me, who is Thea Khama?
Now, the book starts in a very painful way, I must say. Your mother basically being attacked by your father. At some point, he tried to shoot her in the head with a shotgun. Luckily, it grazed her arm. But she was pregnant with you at the time. I know that later on in the book, you mentioned that you were curious and you went to find them, your biological parents. What did she say when you started asking questions?
She was very emotional, obviously, to find me again and for me to find her. She never looked for me. It was a painful moment, but also a beautiful moment where she saw that this creation that she had created in her womb and had gone through all of that had emerged into a young lady who was out and about in the world and doing good things. And I think she was proud of that. And so when she was sharing with me, she immediately went to it, straight to it. So I had, there was no filter whatsoever. So I got it from her mouth and her experience. Now, I'd already had that experience for myself in a sort of a rebirthing experience that I had done with a professional who does that kind of work. And so but I had no context. I had no understanding of what I was feeling during that rebirthing process until she explained to me. And that's how I was able to write in the first person present tense about the experience from the womb.
I find it also very interesting and important at the fact that your parents who adopted you, Lana, she was able to give you information about your biological parents and give you that file that told you who they were, where they're from, etc. You don't find that a lot with biological parents, being comfortable with telling their adopted kids that they are not their true parent.
Yes, that's true. And although it was a very short file, there wasn't much. And I think that's something that all we adoptees struggle with, is that we really have no rights. There's no rights for the adoptee. You are born into this world and you're taken by some other people. You're given away by your own parents. And you never have the right to go find them or to see them again. When I was 21 in the US, we get some rights to go and look, but if they don't want to see you, that's the end of it. You won't see them. You won't meet them. You won't know your past. You won't know your roots. You won't know where you come from. And even your medical history is not there.
And that's very important, I think. Let me bring in my colleagues and Bookshelf club members, Khama and Mngqoba. Kai, I want to start with you in terms of what you thought about the book. I love the storyline of how, somebody like Thea was trying to say that, you might look like somebody who's had a perfect upbringing because your parents were able to take you across Africa. But there are other aspects about your life, about where you really come from, that displace you sometimes.
Well, certainly. I mean, it's a very guts-wrenching account of her experience, and I'm so glad that today she sees herself as a polished diamond. So, for me, I love the expeditions that she had in Africa. She had to go to Nairobi, and she had to go to so many countries. But also, for me, what is a common thread, from scene 1 to scene 40, there's so much hardship, there's so much pain. But I think the very key thing out of the whole story is a a breakthrough. So it's a very victorious story. And also just all the challenges that she had, you know, from the time, for example, some of the very hard experiences she had. And eventually she was able to see that, you know what, everything is okay now. But also I just love how the style, how every scene, you know, there's a very quite poignant quote that she uses. You know, there's one just on scene 26, Masego. Let me just read it for you. The world is a dangerous place to live, not because of the people who are evil, but because of the people who do nothing about it. So I love, you know, all these pouches, you know, just nuggets of information to guide you that, you know, this is going to be a main issue concerning a certain scene.
Manqoba, I want to also bring you in here. I mean, if you look at the cover of the book, and I'm not sure if the team can show the viewers the cover of this book, you really don't expect such a sad story to be told, such a sad storyline to come out of such a beautiful cover. But in the end, you understand why Rough Diamond is the title.
Indeed, Masego, for me, it is a story of resilience, a story of hope, a story of pain. You know, how Thea Khama traverses through life, you know, in what seems like an adventure, having grown in Africa, having traveled between, you know, different countries. One would expect that, you know, this would be an adventure of a lifetime at a young age. But, I mean, the difficulties, the pain, the fear, the anger that she has to traverse through in her life is, I think, what stands out for me in this book. And the fact that, you know, like that analogy of a diamond, a rough diamond, which, Masego, of course, is one of the strongest substances in the world. And the name diamond itself coming from a Greek word, adamas, which means unbreakable. So for me, it really talks about the unbreakable human spirit, you know, in the face of adversity, in the face of hardships. She herself, I mean, Masego, was from conception born to a mother who was a drug addict, to a father was an abuser, an illegal immigrant who used to abuse her mother at a very tender at the time when she was still in the womb, and she'll even feel some of those, you know, the shakiness from the abuse, the mother being shot and also being hit to such a point that she was forced to actually be born prematurely. So that's where we sort of get a sense of the life and the painful journey that she had to traverse. And then when she was born, finally given for adoption and adopted by parents who really, you know, she had hoped that this would be a turnaround in terms of her life. But even that, her parents later divorcing again, she finds herself being torn apart. She finds herself going through pain, going through rejection, and her own sort of experience as she grows up, the sexual abuse and the rejection by friends and all of that. So it really encapsulates for me the unbreakable human spirit that is personified through Thea. And I think there's one paragraph that I really wanted to quote, Masego, from the book that for me stands out, where she says, "Rough diamond of the earth, you are your own warrior." That's on page 24. You have your own power. You can turn dreams into reality. Be polished, strong, and brave. The seed of survival sings as it snuggles closer to the surface, ready to crack open. For me, that is what this book is all about.
And I mean, it's basically not your typical motivational book that you would find in the bookshelf, right? Where people write about their experiences in a more clever way and try to advise you about what to do about your life circumstances. This one is a true story about someone. But there's also the fact, Kaya, that Thea's parents, her adoptive parents, got her black dolls, for instance, to make her aware of this new world that was coming. You know, of course, it was in the 1970s, and I think they were trying to basically make her aware of by the time she grows up, that she's aware that people are different and it's okay.
Well, precisely. And I mean, it's such a very incredible book because also the journey of, you know, the spiritual element as well, but also the strong element of making sure that the issue of making sure that the adoptees are given a voice. I think this book has just done a very tremendous work in terms of making sure that the adoptees are really just given a voice in this instance, but also, most importantly, you know, just also those experiences, because there was a point where Lana got separation with, the husband, and that was really tough for Thea, because now she was, caught up in this middle, but also there was an element of rejection as well. So it's quite a very sad account, but also bringing so many elements into the book. But also I love it because there's a lot of inferences where she's right in the continent. And also my favorite part, I think they were somewhere in Nairobi when they were chased away by baboons.
Yes.
That was quite hilarious for me.
Yeah, and the name that you termed the baboons, it became a family joke, didn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
But also, Thea, there's also that element of displacement and feeling rejected where, for instance, your adoptive parents said you must call them by their first name. But then you also find out that you have 2 older siblings when you go back to find your parents, and you're thinking probably in your head, what was so different with me? And on top of that, your maternal grandmother keeping you a secret and making sure that your grandfather doesn't find out about you, and you swiftly go into the adoptive process with no one knowing.
Yes. That was, I think, all to build me. And I think I've always felt, I know, that my life is a miracle. And so I need to treasure that. And I need to honor that and be the best that I can be for the world out here. And through all these experiences, shed the negativity, shed the pain, but honor it. And honor it in that it helped me to get to where I am today. And where I am today is a completely different space to where I was then. But that story that I'm telling is giving language. It's giving language to the child who couldn't speak and had no way to share. But now it's with the adult who has been healed and who is on a different new path of leadership and coaching and mentoring youth and all of these things that I do, these hats that I wear. Through the writing, I was able to express that, but still keeping the story true to the child. I wanted to remain authentic, and I wanted to remain real without also pulling the reader into such a deep, dark space. Of course, there are moments where I think some people have shared they've cried, but they've reflected on their own lives while reading.
Now, Thea, in the beginning, you talk about the fact that you could feel from the womb that your mother was being abused. Obviously, a lot of people would be shocked at remembering things from that age and remembering, for instance, the atmosphere of your new home when you were adopted at only 2 months. So when you went back home, so I want you to answer that part about remembering all of that while you were in the womb, but also going back to find your biological parents and find that your father is still abusive towards your mom, maybe not physically when you're around and rather verbally, but did you feel any anger?
No.
Okay.
The truth is no. I have always been able to let go of that and forgive. And I think that's just a gift that I was born with. Or it could be also that I have journeyed through that and had to do it so often that it just comes naturally now. I looked for him. I looked for my biological father. And I have since recently found out that he passed a year ago. Funny enough, through taking a DNA test, I never actually got to meet my biological father. He wouldn't meet. And he went to his death, according to the family that are now talking to me, that say, no, he did not believe I was his child.
Till he died?
Did not believe it, yes.
Shoo, Thea, thank you so much for your time. This was a brilliant book. I think my colleagues would agree. It obviously means that you must be very understanding of the English language when you're going to read the book, because it's quite poetic at some point and you paint pictures very deeply in English. And I think that was quite brilliant from your part. And I'm sorry, actually I'm glad that you could share your story for other people to know that you always come from somewhere and it's not always a good place. Thank you for your time. This is obviously The Rough Diamond with Thea Khama. Please do get the book if you are interested in knowing, or if you are one of the people who've been adopted and you want to know how to cope with your adoption. That's it.